Hey guys, number one Marmaduke fan here. I've actually been liking the tripod setup on This Is the Metal laundry basket that I've been putting the tripod in the holes here and aiming down. And I actually kind of like that setup, but now I'm charging and I want to make a video. So sometimes you just gotta like move forward. Okay, the theme of this video is one of my favorite comics of the year, and how ironically, when something is so good, it's hard to say anything about it. You just have to say, beautiful story. So, my art teacher's art teacher. I call him like my art granddad because he was the art teacher to several of my art teachers, but I never had the pleasure of getting to meet him before he passed. I looked at a lot of his art. I read a lot of his articles. I can't say his name yet, but maybe one day I'll talk about him more if I like dox myself or like reveal my secret identity. But my art granddad, all my art teachers told me this story that if you did really good in his class, he would have the famous one-word critique for your art, and that was "Wow!" And he would do it in like this really exuberant voice, and that was your critique. There was nothing else he'd say. He'd just say "Wow." So Danza is a wow comic. I tried to review like the first couple stories. I compared it to poetry. I really can't say anything about Danza except wow, because I'll tell you why I can't review Danza. There's this beautiful, probably maybe fake news story about Nathaniel Hawthorne. It comes from a author who is friends with Nathaniel Hawthorne. Now, I don't know if it's true. Take it for what it is. So this friend of Nathaniel Hawthorne says all the writers were having a bet, and they bet that Nathaniel Hawthorne couldn't write a story that was 6 words. And so Nathaniel Hawthorne took the bet, and his story was baby shoes for sale, never worn. Boom, and he won the bet because it was 6 words, but that's a complete story with a beginning, middle, and end. And I love that story. I think about that so much. Basically, the problem is if something is a perfect short story, you can't. How am I supposed to critique for sale baby shoes never worn? I could say, oh, it's about miscarriage, or oh, it's about sudden infant mortality syndrome. But there's really no way for me to dig in the emotional impact of a story that is so to the point. So the problem with Danza is it is so to the point that if I tell you the point of the story, all I'm going to do is spoil this beautiful, short, compact, perfectly paced little short story. Weebs and Westerners. You've noticed how I've been like bringing the Western comics and the manga together. A couple of reviews ago, I showed the Steve Ditko era Spider-Man comics. And I said, this is on a very short list of comics every person on the planet should read, despite the fact that Steve Ditko wasn't the best illustrator of his time. He just got human emotion so well. So Natsume Ono is exactly that, but from Japan. She draws weird, goofy little cartoon people. I'm convinced that she probably just starts inking and doesn't even pencil, and she just goes with it. And she finishes, and she doesn't have the second eye. She says, it looks good. I don't need to draw the second eye. And she keeps moving. But she has really sophisticated pacing and composition and understanding of human people. And the first 3 stories were about fathers. I just finished all of Danza in one sitting, and all of them are either about fathers or important older male role models who impact you in some way. And she's a female artist. This is one of the beautiful things. She's a female artist, and she's getting this really, really deep stuff about how guys think about each other and how guys interact with each other. You should read this because you could like rip this off for years. You could take one of her little 7-page short stories and then just rip off that idea and turn it into a 1,000-page epic. And it would basically, she's reaching this really deep level of the human psyche, especially for guys, that I think is very rare and very beautiful. Maybe like The Simpsons. I wasn't allowed to watch The Simpsons as a kid, though my older brother used to reenact scenes of it for me. So I know of The Simpsons. I know a lot of the cultural references from The Simpsons. The Simpsons is something I kind of respect, and I've always wanted to sit down and watch because I respect what it is. The few episodes I've seen, it sort of feels like a weird throwback where in the 90s, The Simpsons was really cutting edge and edgy, but then by today's standards, The Simpsons feels really sweet, almost quaint in its morals. But I do think that one of the problems of The Simpsons is after The Simpsons, every male role model is Homer Simpson. They're ineffectual idiots. And what Natsume Ono gets is this like really deep thing of either the father or the older brother or the male mentor at your job. It's like a really, really important role in the life of a guy that you can't really replace with anyone else. What I want to mark, I think I just marked the chapter titles, but really that's the review of all the stories. Wow. Okay, really deep, meaningful psychological things. I think I marked the worst panel because, as I said, she's like a weird, awkward kind of cartoonist. I think she just draws and goes with it. So I think I'm going to show you the weirdest panel in the entire book. Okay, this is the weirdest panel in the entire book. just look at that. Trust me, look at that and drink that in. And I am telling you, this is a perfect comic. You gotta read this. Now, if you look at that and you say, I couldn't read that, okay, maybe you won't be able to get past the weird drawing style, but you gotta trust me on this. Dawn's is gonna hit you in places that you didn't even know you were sad about, and then give you something to take away from it. And also the pacing is great, and the composition and all that stuff is great. Wow. All right, that's it. Wow. I probably should have just said wow and wrapped up that whole 6 minutes. All right. Blackbird by Kanoko Sakura Koji. I don't know. Is this a good Christian anime YouTube channel? So I did a Begone Thought on an earlier volume of this, and I said it's softcore porn. And I kept seeing it at the library and thinking, maybe I should give it another chance. Yeah, it's softcore porn. My good Christian morals won't let me read it. I tried to do the Game of Thrones thing where I actually read the Game of Thrones books someone told me, hey, you gotta check out A Song of Ice and Fire. And I didn't realize that was the same thing as a Game of Thrones, so I said, oh, okay, I guess it's the same thing. And then I started reading it, and I really got into the first few books. And then I said, okay, well, now I want to go watch the show. And like, there's all of like this Christian discussion over whether you can watch Game of Thrones. I tried to do the thing where I would like fast forward the sex scenes, and then I realized, wait a second, I'm missing 90% of the plot in the TV show. This is pointless. I'm fast forwarding half of the show. Why am I doing it? So I tried to do the fast forward thing on Blackbird, and it doesn't really work. Jesus says I can't read it, but are you ready, Marvel fans? I don't have a Marvel book today because this is the I always look at the editorial comments in manga because they're always like little interesting tidbits. There are some great editorial comments in this, and it's just sort of like a sad, crushing, like the Marvel is already dead and buried. I want to remind you that this year, Marvel dug up old Stan Lee soapbox columns and reprinted those out of context to pwn the customers. They wanted to find Stan Lee soapboxes so they could try to lecture customers who were complaining about the direction Marvel Comics has been going for the past 2 years. So while Marvel Comics has been doing that, this dumb comic I can't even read is doing like yeoman's work in showing you the customer service agenda. The customer comes first. So let's flip through it. I guess my basic, like, I really just want to rip off the plot of this. I guess it actually has been forcing me to think, like, what's the difference between me being a prude and me being, like, true to my convictions? I think my problem with Blackbird is it's sex without giving me, like, a substance. Like, I want to know who these people are. I want to know what they're thinking beyond just, I really want the other person. So that's my short critique of why I don't like the use of sex in the story. Now that I've got that, sex is for marriage, kids. Okay, let's talk about this great stuff. I won't read all these, but some of her readers notice that she keeps forgetting to draw the little wedding ring that the girl gave to the guy, and so she kind of says thank you to the readers and says sometimes I forget that. Think of it as a find the mistakes challenge, and she thanks her readers for calling her attention to that. She does these little illustrations as bonuses. And if a reader sends her a suggestion, she'll draw it. So she says, I read through every piece of mail, postcards, and emails that reach me or are on my fan site. Even if yours isn't selected, I enjoy them myself. So please continue to send them in. Unfortunately, this request was not selected. Kyo in the shower. Now, I want to call attention to the fact that she is apologizing for not being able to draw Kyo in the shower for the illustrations. And what's here? A drawing of Kyo in the shower. So even if she can't use it in the big special illustrations, she sneaks it into the little bonus illustrations because her fans are requesting that. There's like this really dopey but kind of sweet scene where she says, "Dear God, I love this man. I love everything about him. Please give me strength. Even a little will do. If we're torn apart, I cannot go on living." That was like my favorite page in all of this, like, Sexist for Marriage Kids manga. All right. Jumping ahead. There's the setup for the next volume. As the series continues to lengthen, characters that were not scheduled to appear in scenes that were not meant to be featured are making their appearance. I am very grateful for this. Also, it seems this manga is being read by people of all ages. The age range of people who have sent me letters and emails spans 40 years. So even if we are assuming that some 13-year-olds are being naughty and reading this, even though this is not an older teen manga, there needs to be a rating between older teen and triple X. I'm just going to call this an R-rated manga. So even if we assume there are some 13-year-olds reading this R-rated manga, that means her age range is 13 to 53 years old. Now, I that's probably like the total age range. I don't know if, like, what the most. I forgot mean, median, and mode from high school. I'm sorry, Mrs. High School English math teacher. I'm sorry, but I don't know. Maybe like the general age of her audience is still younger, but she's hitting everything from teenagers to middle-aged men with the sort of unapologetically, like, I am sure that Kanoko Sakura Koji has volumes and volumes of hentai that she's drawn over the years. And this is her, like, trying to be PG-13. There was a conversation with her editors where her editors said, hey Kanoko, can you try to do a PG-13 manga? And she said, okay, I'll try my best to tone it down to PG-13. And the editors looked at that and said, well, this isn't really PG-13. Yeah, but it's as close as we're going to get to PG-13. She loves her some big, strong, aggressive men and some young, buxom women quivering under the strong, penetrating gaze of big, strong men. So I am sure she has volumes and volumes of hentai. She knows exactly what she likes and she knows what sells. And she's finding a market for that across generations, from like Gen Zs to boomers, all reading her stuff over in Japan. The main story will continue in a more serious vein for a while. I hope you continue to follow the story, please. I give my deepest thanks to all those who have had anything to do with me. An auspicious day. Look at all of this customer service. All right, jumping ahead, we see her kind of like roasting herself and kind of making fun of herself about how a lot of her covers are the same, and she's going to try to change this out. And I actually looked at the future covers, and she did change it up. So she didn't just say she was going to change it up. She followed through and actually like thought creatively about how to improve her style and make it cool. All right, there's this beautiful little section at the end where she just does these bonus pages about herself. I'll skip this one. It's her talking about how type A she is. She jokes about how the movers come and she sees the big mover guy carry 2-bit boxes and she totally gets excited. I bet you got excited over the big strong man carrying boxes, Sakura Koji. I bet you were very excited by the big strong man visiting your house. She's a little Death Note joke where her editor is going to like kill her because she's a little late, even though she's a very type A and organized person. This is the beautiful part. So first time being published. This is her talking about like all of her senseis who are also female manga artists and are older and maybe a bit more experienced than her. I want to refocus this. Can I refocus this? I didn't plan this out. The other day, over a year since my move, some manga friends of mine came for a visit. And they're joking about her place, and so she brings out a manga drawing pad and some pens. A drawing pad, the new graphic novel. I have so many extra pages, and so she got them all to draw for her. This is amazing. Okay, who knows if even all of these artists have been localized? So I'm just going to look at this. Shoka Arika sensei draws him with kind of like the funeral thing on. Hinako Ashihara sensei, and she adds all of her comments on how much she loves all these drawings. Aoi Suguri sensei presents Renko, the shiny hair, I can never get it right. So she's looking at her senseis and their styles. Satona Mizushiro sensei presents Sagami and Ayame, and she talks about, it looks like he's got a plan, and look, Ayame's so cute. Yasuko sensei presents Sojo. I have nothing to say. General comment, individuality is amazing. Yeah, so a collection of very individualistic styles interpreting her characters. That's lovely. I really like this one because it's just got like the cool loose brush strokes, and these were obviously drawn just real quickly to fill a couple pages. And then back to the manga. All the sensei very willingly drew
for me. When they got there, it was already in the middle of the night. I'm sleepy. My hand won't move. Why so early in the morning? It's hard to draw because these aren't my usual tools. I'm so sleepy, my brain won't work. Oh, but this pen nib writes nicely. Yasuko Sensei drew it in seconds. Which one is that? That one. I knew that drawing was drawn in seconds. That is a great drawing. All right, so Mizushiro Sensei, who drew Sagami, had some commentary about her characters. They're my friends, but they've all been in the business longer than I have. I thank you all. They were readers too, I found. Actually, I am not very good at writing messages or comments, requesting cards and letters from fans. I always think too hard and end up writing some hackneyed phrases. Even when my first comic was published, I'm not good at doing bonus material. Maybe I don't have to do anything. I sat there grumbling when having bonus material is an added value of graphic novels. I wouldn't buy any graphic novel that doesn't have any bonus material. I may as well just read it in the magazine. I might understand it if you were a famous writer, but you have to give your readers something extra. Who do you think you are? You're right, I'm sorry. I was lectured by a friend, an ordinary person, so not a mangaka, just a friend of hers who is a manga buyer, gives her this extremely blunt criticism. And so I applied myself with fresh determination. Yank, and on her headband it says, I heart my readers. I shall add bonus material. I shall fill any and all blank spaces. I will keep the ads pages to a minimum. I will use only illustrations that have never been used before. With gusto. It may not be cool, but I'll do it with gusto. Even if I need to get help, this is all for the sake of my readers. I'm going to continue to do my best as much as possible. Incidentally, that friend of mine only reads the bonus pages in my book. Whoever you are, random friend, brofist. Through space and time and through the fictional medium of comics, brofist. Wow, what a great customer service interaction. I have tried to depict the things around me in the manga essays in this volume. There are still many others to whom I am indebted. I hope I will also be able to write about my assistants who help me draw and designers and writers someday. And more than anyone, it is you, the readers, who have made it possible for this series to go on, volume after volume. I shall continue to write stories, squeezing my little wisdom to bring you even a modicum of pleasure. An auspicious day, September 2008, Kaneko Sakurakoji. This year, Marvel Comics weaponized the legacy of Stan Lee to lecture its customers. Rest in peace, Marvel Comics. Manga is going... I'm going to keep buying the True Believers books and recommending great old Marvel Comics. This week, people are talking about how DC Comics might be shut down. And you know what? I'm just going to sit down, pour myself a little wine. No, I'm going to pour myself some sake and sip it and watch the Western comics industry collapse as the righteous Japanese warriors finally take their revenge on us for Hiroshima and Nagasaki like we've deserved all this time. I'm #1 Marmaduke fan. I love you guys, and I'll catch you later.